Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Comics Evolve, where we discuss all things around comics media culture with your hosts, Andy, Jarian, and Alex.
Welcome to Comics Evolve, myself, Andy Stead.
And I'm Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Stroud.
And we're here today and we're going to be talking about Loki season 2, episode 1. Let's not forget that we're a second season in. But let's get some pleasantries out of the way. Alex, you're looking very colourful today. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I went to the zoo yesterday in North Carolina. So drove there. Didn't get home until like 11 o'clock last night. That's like 3 hours away from here. So like 7 hours driving yesterday. So that was, a big part of the day. But
And a trip around the zoo at the same time.
So I walked all the zoo and then went and drove all the way back home too afterwards. So I was incredibly happy to get some really good sleep last night.
Yeah, I bet, yeah. Jarian, how are you?
Doing all right. Thursday, my team did not do well. That was not a good showing. So, yeah, and I got the rest of this weekend to watch other teams do stuff and still have to live with the pain of that loss.
I'm kind of half there and half not there with you today. The team that I coach, my men's team that I coach, we didn't do very well today. But the team that I support, we did really, really well today. So I'm kind of like, it's like bittersweet, you know. But I'll tell you what I've got. So today, visited Paul Edwards down at Gibb Garage. My son he actually bought the Lego Up house.
Nice.
Balloons. Yeah, it's really cool. They built it this afternoon. But we was in there and my other son was digging through the little bin of little bits. And Paul said, "I'll go and just take something. There's something in there. Just take whatever you want." And he saw a pin badge, and I was like, "Oh!" And he went, "Oh no, I don't really want it." And I had a look at it. I was like, "I'll have it." Look, I don't know if you can see what it says. And it says,
"Trust the bro."
Trust the bro.
Nice.
So I was like, "I'll take that pin badge." So I took a pin badge and donated £1 to charity for the cause. So I thought I'd have a Trust the Bro pin badge. Okay, so should we dive straight into this opener of Loki? I thought it was really good. I was really excited, and actually, I'll tell you what. Before we do get started on the Loki thing, we're 2 years old in our group tomorrow. It's our 2-year anniversary, and actually, this podcast started around the same time as the first season of Loki started. So that's kind of tied in quite nicely.
Nice.
So it's quite sort of nostalgic for us to be talking about Loki again on this show on a weekly basis. And the music come on, it was the same music, and it was kind of taking me back to that sort of really excited period. We'd just come out of Endgame, hadn't we? Really, I know we hadn't because there'd been the COVID break and things like that. But we had really, in regards to content, we'd just come out of Endgame. We'd had WandaVision. We're kind of like, oh, what's going on here? And then we've got Loki, and it was great. And they hit up that same music, that same intro. We've got Loki literally starting where we left off in the last episode. What was like your guys' first impression? Because I was like, oh wow, they are literally starting like now, like it's seconds after that first season finished.
Yeah, I mean, I think right off the bat, like I was a little shocked because we have that scene with him seeing Mobius and B-15 and them not knowing who it was, and then having that moment where he's in the TVA and then he looks back before the door is cracked and he's like, wait, how long has that crack been there? It seemed like all of a sudden it was past, present, and future. It was really confusing all at the same time. Mm-hmm. It's like we know time doesn't exist in the TVA, so it was one of those things where it's like, what is happening? So there's a lot of confusion.
Yeah, that time slipping was interesting. Him going back and then forth and then seeing the effects of in the past come to the future, especially with that cracked floor. It's like, how do they explain this? And then the whole interaction with OB as well. And then how he would go to the past, talk to OB. They have the conversation that come forward in the future. And I just want to say that Kei Kwan's doing a great job in this show already. I'm excited about the character. My wife, for watching it, I think for like a second or third time and watched it her first time, she's like, it's like they took Data from Goonies and put him into the TVA, and he's grown up now, and it's the exact same character, but all of his tinkering works now.
Yeah. That scene was absolute G, or that group of scenes, that period was absolute genius. I thought, what a better way to explain time travel than this? This is brilliant. He's like, so have you got one? No. Yes, I have got one of those. But that was really, really cool. But back to the crack in the floor, I thought that was great as well. That was a really great way to kind of show how time had gone so, like, you know, because the crack was barely visible. It had been fixed, and Casey didn't realise that. You know, he's like, well, that's been there as long as I can remember. And yeah, no, I really loved that time slipping. That whole sequence was great. That first sort of 20 minutes, I was a little bit like you, Alex, a little bit like, hold on, where are they going to go with this? How are they going to get Mobius to remember who he is? And I think they kind of sorted that out very quickly, but in a really cool way.
Yeah, and I was like sitting there the whole time thinking about, like, you know, why is it Loki is experiencing past, present, and future of the TVA, like, after you start to understand that this is what's happening. And I mean, like, I almost kind of feel like maybe it was because he was at the Citadel at the end of time in season 1. Maybe it was because he was, like, you know, ejected from the Citadel using He Who Remains tech. I think we used the tech off the desk or whatever to open up the portal and send him through. But it almost kind of seems like he's, like, kind of like an outlier, you know, now.
Yeah.
Originally thought that it was, like, something tied to maybe his universe, like his universe was destroyed and that was why. But now it almost seems like it's like he's been in and out of the TVA, and there's maybe some tech or something that may have caused that, and maybe that was He Who Remains.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if we'll get any kind of explanation on that, why he was glitching, and, you know, still he's fine. So
it was a little bit like Into the Spider-Verse when Miles was, or when Miles was glitching, or when the others were glitching, you know, because they weren't in the right universe. So there was almost a little bit of that going on, wasn't there?
And I almost feel like that scene where he had to be pruned, you know, that way he could, like, reform and come back to the TVA. I almost feel like that scene is going to be something that kind of loops back to the end, because we see Sylvie pulling the elevator doors open and going Loki, and she's like almost excited, like she's lost him and she's looking for him.
like surprised, yeah.
Yeah, and I almost feel like Ramona Renslayer is going to be the one that's pruning Loki. She's going to have him behind him, and she's going to hit him. And that phone call that was being made that made Loki stop and look is going to be made by Loki at the end of the season.
Yes.
Yeah.
So stop. That way,
Yes.
he stops and looks at the phone, the elevator doors will open up.
Yeah.
This is going to be like a full loop this season.
Yeah, I love that. I love that kind of stuff in time travel stuff. It's brilliant. You know, look, I think we mentioned it actually in our Loki preview when we said about Back to the Future. And when you go into the second one, there's stuff that happens in the second one that kind of, when you watch the first one, you're like, wait a minute, that was him. Like, you just didn't realize it was him. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I love that. I think that's brilliant. That's a great suggestion, Alex. I like that.
Yeah, and definitely will be interested to see if that was Renslayer that did prune him, because we don't see who it was, and I'm still interested to see where she ended up going in season 1, where she disappeared. But also, too, we saw that as he's doing his time slips back and forth, that you hear the conversation between her and He Who Remains, where he basically tells to her, for us, for all time, Ravonna Renslayer, you are quite a marvel. I will be proud to lead with you. You made a difference in this war. Thank you for being on my team. And you know, and I don't know if we confirmed that was He Who Remains, or if that was Victor Timely, or they're the same person in the MCU. But that was interesting also too, when he pruned the wall, how you saw, you know, they're starting to see, you know, kind of like almost Wizard of Oz like, without the fakeness, right? They're kind of seeing behind the curtain of what's really going on.
Yeah. And you've got Ravonna Renslayer, where she has that one line in that recording where she's basically like, you know, I think whichever variant it is that says it, he says for all time, and then she says always.
Yep.
That's like the slogan of the TVA pretty much, and that's what Miss Minutes kind of is. And you notice throughout this episode, Miss Minutes is kind of like gone. She's not really like a part of it. And at one point, I think he like starts to use Miss Minutes, and Loki's like, no, don't. She was there at the Citadel at the end of time, so she's in on this too.
Yep.
And it's very interesting because we see in the earlier trailers for this, Miss Minutes was with Victor Timely in the past at the World Fair.
And so was Rana. Yep.
Yep. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting that whole I want to talk about that a little bit more now, because that's really piqued my interest. That whole scene around the elevator, and when Sylvie's coming back to prune him, and who pruned him, and that phone call, like why he stops up. Why is Sylvie back there? It looked like she's got her it looked like she's been around for a little while, because she had a different haircut. She had a little fringe sort of haircut. Did she say anything? I can't remember. Did she say about time or Loki? Did she say a word?
I think she said this Loki, something like that.
Yeah, she was just like Loki, and then they played that really good music that they always play whenever he sees her, and it pauses, and then that was when he was pruned. And it's like, it almost feels to me like that's one of those things where he's going to remember that moment, and it just happened to happen at the right time, and he's going to be like, I can stop myself, keep everything moving the way that it needs to be. So
this is it.
That way I'll stop at the elevator doors and see her and then be pruned. So like, we can make sure that event happens to make sure the end happens. And I'm guessing that maybe Sylvie just gets drugged back into the fold because they send that whole team out supposedly for her to go capture her.
Well, that was the interesting part, wasn't it? Because that B-15 and was it Mobius? No, it wasn't Mobius at the time. Who was it? They were running down. There was like all of this for Sylvie. Like that was a lot, you know.
Yeah.
They, like you said, they sent out a lot of guys to go and get her. But that was interesting seeing the sort of generals of the TVA. You had the two ladies, and then the guy was asleep. Obviously, it wasn't as interested as everybody else. And there's a strange relationship going on between the lady that played the sort of main general, who was Lysa Arryn in Game of Thrones. Just because I watched Game of Thrones recently, and the other guy, you know, they were almost like mother and son, maybe.
That was very odd.
It was strange, but yeah. So that was interesting seeing those kind of that hierarchy of the TVA in there as well.
Did you guys notice the tubes in OB's room, behind him and all that kind of stuff? I wonder what the deal is with all those tubes, and if that room that he was in is going to play any importance. Like, they just seem odd with that room. Also, too, one thing, with his name, Ouroboros, right? That's Norse mythology name, right? So it's known as the serpent Jormungandr, am I saying that right? Who happens to be a child of Loki. And so I wonder, could OB be a Loki variant also? In some way?
Maybe. I mean, it doesn't that also kind of tied to like maybe like a snake eating its tail or something like that too. I feel like I think that's a thing in Norse mythology that's the Loki too. Being so
that's the cycle.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm not sure whether it'll be a Loki variant. I did hear a rumor that somebody thinks he might actually be. There's more to him, as in like he's not as good as he. Is he a good guy or a bad guy or what? Because we. On the Loki variant thing, we did see a black Loki in season 1 and at the end of time, or in the void. So there's no reason he couldn't be a Loki variant, or possibly, I don't know, even a Kang variant. I don't know, but it's interesting that his name ties to Norse mythology and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
I thought it was really interesting when we're starting to see that the TVA basically has like a timeline, which I mean, it's interestingly enough to think about it, because we've always seen that it doesn't have time being in effect there, basically. But obviously, from like the perspective of like He Who Remains, it does have like a beginning and an end. I'm sure like it's one of those things like you've seen it play out. But what I think is the most interesting to me is looking at this is it's almost like suddenly this is like waking everybody up, right?
Yep.
All this is happening. And we're like gonna experience like even Mobius says it at one point. He's like, you can't tell everybody that they're fake gods and everything that they've been doing is all been wrong and for the wrong reason. You see the head on the table from the android from the first season, and they literally like have like a little bit of a moment where like the generals are kind of arguing about it, because they're kind of like, well, obviously we thought these were real people and they're not, like we thought these were beings and they're not. So I feel like this is going to be one of those situations where it's, they started letting the timelines branch. It started causing the blackout for the TVA. It's like going to end up being utter chaos And I feel like this is more of what leads into that multiversal war that we're
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. We said that, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago on our preview, that this war that's happening is that multiversal war that they keep talking about. Maybe even that multiversal war that the Kang variant was talking about on the recording to Ravonna. It's all the same thing. It's that loop again. Just so touching on the ending. Obviously, Loki got pulled back out of the time stream, and we got that sort of last few moments in there. But obviously, the little end credits scene, or post credits, mid credits scene.
Well, before we get to that, you want to talk about that room real quick, because that room was odd, very oddly familiar. When they're walking down the hallway and they got to the temporal loom room doorway. Did you not see like the X in the middle and the way it opens? Did that not give you a Cerebro type feeling? Even when they walked into the room, and the way the stairs looked like it was like that ramp out that Professor X kind of goes onto, but it was stairs going down instead. That whole room there did have Cerebro vibes to me. I don't know if you guys caught that too as well.
Yeah, I didn't get it necessarily with the door. The door was just a door for me, but
look at the door up close though. There's actually an X. It looked like there's an X there when you look at close to the door.
Okay.
So
all right,
yeah,
fair enough. But yeah, the walking out onto that where he had to go and put the thing into the other machine. Yeah, definitely.
I got such a laugh out of that part where he's carrying that device and he's like, something just broke off of this, OB. Is that supposed to happen? And they just ignore it.
So when Sylvie opened the doors to that, she says, "There you are," and he's pruned right away. She said, "There you are" to him, and it's on prunes and stuff. I have in my notes here. So
I got just on that as well. I've got a feeling that like we've been saying there, that's a bit of a setup by Loki. Like Loki tells Sylvie to go back to that moment. Do you know what I mean? Like she's gone back there on his instruction because he's sort of saying this is what we've got to do there. But and Sylvie, we saw her at the end just rocking up at a McDonald's in what looks like the 80s.
1982, Broxton, Oklahoma. Which is, a couple things there. So that character's home from Agent Carter, but the biggest thing from the comics is that Thor rebuilt Asgard there outside of Broxton in the comics, and then turned it into a floating island.
Oh, is that where it was when Asgard come to Earth and it was just just off of Earth because they couldn't have it on Earth, because if it was on Earth, there was some sort of like rights issue or something like that.
Yeah. But then they were like, oh, it's in the United States airspace. So it's still kind of more or less.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's right. They said they couldn't have them on United States soil. But they floated it, and that's why Norman ended up sieging it. But yeah, so she's turned up. Looks like she's just trying to go for a normal life, don't it?
Yeah.
That's what she was saying. I want to try. She thinks it's job done at this point, doesn't she?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think she was, like, thrown out or anything. It seems like after she kills He Who Revenge, she just opens up a portal and just goes.
It bounces, yeah.
Yeah, and just goes somewhere and walks in, is like, this seems like it is completely off the grid. Nobody's going to find me. This is, like, middle of nowhere, and I'll just hide out in 1982 and try and have a normal, boring existence. And
yeah, try a bit of everything, I think is what she says, isn't it? Something like that. So, yeah, she's not expecting Loki to turn back up when he does, whenever that is going to be. But he is going to, she's not going to like it because she's sort of going to think, I thought I stopped all of that happening. And he's sort of like, nah, you just made it worse. But it's interesting actually how Loki's really, I mean, well, not just Loki, but the show itself is really, really making a menacing character of Kang and the variants of him. Like Loki's like, you can see he's scared. You can see Tom Hiddleston's acting. He's got this sort of scared face whenever he talks about he's coming, he doesn't even really know him, does he? I mean, he knows He Who Remains, but that's it. He only knows what He Who Remains has told him.
I think it scares Loki because, like, when they have that conversation, he's like, I'm the one who paved the way. I'm the one that laid out this for you, that you took every path that I wanted to, basically. And then, when he's talking to Mobius, he's like, he calls himself He Who Remains. And he's like, well, that sounds like a very interesting name. It's almost like Last Man Standing. And he's like, yeah, because he basically is. And he's like, can he back it up? And he's like, yes, he can. Now, and that there's a million of it. And it's like, wow, yeah, like you think about it, it's pretty terrifying,
It is, and like I say, I think they've done a good job of beefing him up. Like all of a sudden, I feel like he's gone from like this level to this level. You know, like as a character, Kang. You know, the threat that he poses to the universe. And yeah, I think that they're doing a good job of doing that. So hopefully, when we actually see him, hopefully next week, maybe, we'll see what happens. Because there's rumours that we're seeing quite a few variants of him in this show, isn't there, Joey?
We're going to be back at the Citadel again. We're going to see So He Remains. We're going to see more of. We're going to see Victor Timely. I'm not sure what other variants, but they're saying he's in a pretty good chunk of this season. So,
got to start from next week, I should imagine.
Yep. Did you guys check the end credits at all? Were you watching stuff in there also? There's a hex symbol, there's a hex moment that it refers to in the credits. Also, Darkhold symbols there. So, are we teasing a potential connection between, Kang, the TVA, the Scarlet Witch, WandaVision / Multiverse of Madness? Who knows? But I wonder if any of that will come into factor this season, since they had that stuff for the end credits. I don't know why else would they would throw it in there, other than a clue for something that could happen this season.
And those are in the like in the books, in the sort of pictures.
Yep.
Right.
As you're going through, so there's a reference to a hex moment, and then the symbols of the Darkhold.
Okay. That's cool. That's interesting. I would imagine they're probably just little tidbits that are thrown in there. I'm not sure we'll get any direct references, but who knows?
Yeah. And then you also notice we had a Moon Knight connection, a loose one with Casey and his podcast, the Sleep or the Wake or whatever it was, the Staying Awake podcast. Staying Awake, yeah. Same one that Steven had on during Moon Knight.
Yeah, I didn't, but yeah, Tim brought my attention to that one. Yep. Nice to see that they're dropping in little hints of Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Casey was funny as well. I thought he was quite funny in his few scenes that he had. He was so sort of dumbstruck by the whole situation, wasn't he? There he is carrying his little sort of tape player, and wasn't he eating as well at one point?
Yeah.
Just sort of walk around. He was like, "Who are you?" And then he was like, "Wait, Loki." And what's going on? He was just quite funny. I found him quite funny.
From Jimmy Cloud here via the YouTube chat says, the Rockstar YouTube guy broke down every Easter egg in the final credits. It was so much fun. I'll have to go watch that, because I'm sure there's a bunch more, but the Hex one was the one that caught my eye. I got to go watch more of it. So
Nice.
I thought it was really interesting in this episode too that we hadn't met OB yet, but until now you would ask somebody in the TVA how long they had been there, and they're just like, "Oh, I don't know." Like, "Oh, I don't know." And then he's like, "Yeah, the last time I saw somebody was like 400 years ago."
yeah, that was an OB reference to Mobius. We're talking to Mobius. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like one of those things where it's like, he's separated from everybody. He's kind of like, he's been doing his thing, and he's like, how's everybody up there doing? I haven't seen anybody since like you popped down here last, basically, and that was like 400 years ago. And that's just wild to me, because it's like the first time somebody like recognizes something in a time frame almost within the TVA, and it's been part of an experience time frame in the TVA.
But that 400 years, they acted like it was like last week.
Yeah.
It was like 400 years ago. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that. And they sort of started having this jovial chat about what they was talking about, and then it was kind of brushed off. So it was almost like, yeah, I remember seeing you. We caught up last week, didn't we? Yeah, that's right.
And Loki gives OB the nickname in the past that makes Mobius, basically, I guess, become a little bit more friendly with him because he likes that nickname. And yeah, I mean, it's clever what they did there with the time travel.
And we got a jet ski reference too in this episode.
We did,
yeah. So in the it was Hunter X5 was that Hunter. He made the reference about the magazine, the jet skis, and him and Mobius having that conversation and so forth. So I wonder, are we finally going to get to see Mobius on a jet ski or something in this, since he's reading magazines about jet skis?
It also sounded like, so it's just departing from Marvel a little bit, that he was saying that jet ski is a brand, not the name of a thing. Like, I love those. I love that kind of stuff, because you've got Hoover and vacuum, haven't you? People say, "Oh, I've got a Hoover," and it's like, no, that's a vacuum. Hoover's the brand. But and it's one of these. I'm gonna have to look into it, because that really, I was like, oh, I need to find that out. I love it when that happens, when people, so we Google everything, don't we now? Whether you use Google or not, you Google it. You know, you search it. That's what Google means.
No one's saying you're binging it.
What's the most interesting concept to me in this show is when they're arguing about being variants and whether or not, like, because they talk about seeing Ravona's variant, like, on a timeline and everything. And they're like, we're all variants and everything. It's like, well, what did you think you were before that? Did you think... That's like, I would naturally almost feel like my response would be, we've got to be out of timelines. Like, we weren't, maybe we were created by the TVA, but it seems like nobody questions their existence.
Well, maybe they were always told that when they came in that they were, this is where, they were just part of the TVA. They were always here. They weren't in those timelines. And that's what's making them all, like that one judge that finally said take their side about it when they were in that room, because he's like, hey, we're all variants. I saw her on the timeline. We have other versions of herself. And they're like, wait a minute, we need to find out what's going on here. So maybe they're always told something different or were led to believe something different the whole time.
Yeah, they had their memories wiped, and I love that line Mobius says about, like, why is it I can't remember having my memory wiped? Like,
What it was, he says, I don't remember anything about having my memory wiped.
Yeah.
And Owen Wilson delivers that line brilliantly as well, because you just like, this is a classic Owen Wilson way. Okay, cool. Any more thoughts on Loki episode 1 before we move on?
Yeah, I just feel like I said back to that telephone call thing, I feel like that's going to play right into the final episode, and that's really important. It's going to be one of those things where once Loki is crooned, Sylvie's going to lose it because she's going to think that that's like the Loki from the current time in the current episode, and I think that'll be Ravonna, and Ravonna will basically not be realizing that she's completing that loop, and I feel like Loki will be the one making that phone call that makes that Loki stop. And I just think it would be really funny if he's talking to like a Kang variant or something. He's like, hang on, I need to make a phone call. And then he calls that phone or whatever, and then it rings, and
I think you're spot on there, because that makes a lot of sense. If you look at the whole Kang situation, like his whole thing is a loop, isn't it? I was talking to a friend of mine the other day about he hasn't read Only Myself Left to Conquer, and that's exactly what that is. It's just a loop. We were saying about Aurora Boreas, the name, if it's a snake eating its own tail, it's a loop. Time is a loop. There is, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a really, really nice, tidy theory there, Alex. Okay. So Loki season 2, episode 1 was a hit. I think I overall I enjoyed it. I think it really set up the next sort of 5 episodes really nicely. So very much looking forward to that. Should we move on with a little bit of news, Jared?
Yeah, not a whole lot, but since the writers' strike is over, a lot of things are starting to move around. A lot of things have come to light from the U.S. Copyright Office listing. So we'll start with Agatha. Agatha is set to release September 19th, 2024. So we are just under a year for Agatha to release. The synopsis, in the first episode, we see Agatha finally break out of a spell she's been trapped in. She can't wait to go back to her old murderous ways, only to find that she's powerless. The only way forward for her is to embark on a perilous quest to get her powers back with help of an unlikely friend or two. Also, according to the copyright listing from Marvel Studios, Agatha, so basically Aubrey Plaza will star, is playing Rio Vidal, an original character made for the series. It's not like she's going to be a villain from everything I'm hearing out there, but this is an original character made for the series. She's not like Morgan Le Fay or any other that we've heard before, but she will be part of the witches there, and it sounds like she'll be a villain in the series.
Okay, interesting. Another new character made for the shows. Yep. If it's a specific character that they need to do a specific job, then fair enough. Just before we move on, that's RMC. I see you there, mate. We've just done our Loki chat, but if you've got anything you want to add in about Loki episode 1, chuck it on the chat and we'll see if we can go back to it.
Yep. Daredevil news. Daredevil is expected to release January of 2025.
Whoa.
Yep. The synopsis is longtime rivals Matt Murdock, Charlie Cox, and Wilson Fisk, Vincent D'Onofrio, try to leave behind their darker alter egos to serve people of New York, only to have their past catch up to them. Also, too, not every episode we'll have Daredevil, or we'll have Murdoch as Daredevil. We'll see more Murdoch on the lawyering side too as well, which it makes sense because it's 18 episodes. You can't have him basically out there, doing things as Daredevil the entire series. You're gonna have things mixed in and out of court, in normal life too as well. Also, Jania Walton has been cast as BB Urich. Reportedly, she's playing Ben Urich's niece from the Netflix series and is named after him. So some continuity there. John Bernthal has been listed on the official cast list as well. So we know he's back. He's officially back. So we'll see him. I don't know what capacity or what, but he's going to be back there as the Punisher. It's good to see that. Frank Castle is back. Michael Gandolfini will be portraying Daniel Blade. Daniel is Mayor Fisk's Director of Communications. So
yeah, I was just about to say we're going down this Devil's Reign route. I was positive of that in the first place, and yeah, that's just there confirmed it. But great story arc, that Devil's Reign, actually.
And the last thing on Daredevil before I get to the comments here, Sandrine Holt has been officially cast as Vanessa Fisk. So we'll have a new Vanessa officially, which has been rumored for a year now, in Born Again as well. This was the RMC. Back to Loki. Strong first episode. More than anything, I'm just happy it's here. It did feel good, like we got our MCU back.
Yeah, definitely.
Jimmy Cloud here says, did they explicitly say we were getting 18 episodes in season 1 of DD? I'm thinking they may film 18 but split it into 2 seasons. I don't think we had that official yet. I know there's 18 episodes, and I've always thought it might be better with 3 parts, 6 apiece, since they're stuck on that 6th episode, and then have it in 3 parts. But we'll see how that happens.
Yeah, they definitely did say 18 when they first announced that they would do it. They said it was 18. I remember watching it, and they said that it was going to be 18 things. How they divvy that up, who knows?
I also hear from the chat, as the RMC, I hear we get Castle back in DD. We're getting him in his own show as well. Well, I know we officially know now for sure that we're getting him back in Daredevil because he's on the official cast list now. But as far as his own show, nothing's confirmed yet. And the last one here, what's up with Elektra? I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing we bring the same actress back from Netflix also, but who knows if we're going to see Elektra in this or not.
Wade's going to kill Jennifer Garner in Deadpool 3. That's what's going to happen with Elektra.
They could definitely bring back, I think her name was Elodie Young, that played Elektra in the Daredevil series. I really liked her. I thought she did a really good job. Not a big fan of the other Elektra.
Yeah. We also have some Ironheart news. The expected release date is September 3rd, 2025. The date is listed as approximate in the copyright listing. We have a synopsis as well, in which charming teenage super genius Riri Williams, Dominique Thorne, returns from MIT to her hometown of Chicago in her iron suit and begins to unravel things that bring danger and adventure to her doorstep.
Yeah, I was going to say that's exactly what I would have expected from the Ironheart show. She's sort of gone off on this sort of crusade with the Wakandans, come back, and then she's just made trouble for herself by doing that, basically, and she's going to have to deal with it on her own.
Mm-hmm. From the chat here, refers to Elektra. I like Elodie myself, so another one for Elodie out there. Yeah, and also the talk has been that Ironheart's going to be tied to Armor Wars, so I'm not surprised. They're done with all the principal photography of Ironheart, that this is going to be pushed out to 2025 because they have to get the Armor Wars stuff, in line first, since that's going to be tied to that from all the reports before the strikes happened.
Yeah, we've got all this tech out there, making tech, and all these different places. The Wakandans have got tech, and yeah, I can imagine that there's certain people don't like that.
So for the next year of stuff, this is what it looks like for MCU. What If, we still don't know for sure yet, but there's been speculation of December 2023 possibly of What If coming out. Echo will be in January of 2024. X-Men 97 is looking like spring of 2024, but nothing confirmed yet. Captain America 4 might be moved up to May to replace Deadpool 3's original date, since Deadpool has been delayed with all of the actors and the writer's strike. We know Agatha now is September, and that means Deadpool could be November of next year if it makes the 2024 slate. that's what we're looking at here for the next year of Marvel stuff.
Nice, and that just pushes everything back even further. And it just makes it amazing to think that, by the time we actually get this kind of, whether it's going to be a soft reboot or a complete, cut off, of Secret Wars, it could end up being 20 years, from Iron Man, Yeah. That is a hell of a long time. That's a ludicrous amount of time, really, when you think about it, that they've managed to keep that franchise, going and expanded it the way they have over 20 years. That's huge.
Mm-hmm. Also, too, my list was post the Marvels, so we're still getting the Marvels next month. There's still the Wear by Night color thing, and who knows if we'll get a special presentation on Halloween or not still, or something else. So,
and obviously, we've got Echo as well.
Yep.
Spoke about that last week. That's being released January.
Yep.
Yep.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was going to say it's good stuff.
Spider-Man freshman year news. So voice actor Hudson Thames will be assuming the role of Peter Parker in Spider-Man freshman year. He is the same voice actor who voiced Spider-Man and Peter Parker in What If season 1. So continuity there as far as voice acting. We have a question here. Any news on Blade? Sorry, I've been out of the loop a bit lately, so I'm up to speed. I heard they scrapped the script again and starting over. Also, did Agatha get a name change again? It is Darkhold Diaries. So, Blade, I've heard nothing from my sources that I usually trust out there that I see. Well, I should say my sources, but the usual people that I follow that are trustworthy has said nothing about Blade. For everything I know, everything got the brakes pumped on it because of the strikes. So I have not heard anything about the Blade stuff at all as far as being scrapped again or anything like that. So nothing from the usual people that I follow that are more trustworthy sources that I know of. It did see that Agatha, they did have Darkhold Diaries and it's the listed names last week we talked about, but I'm not sure if that's official, the name change or not. Right now it's still Agatha as far as I know. So
It said it was first the some
Coven of Chaos.
Yeah, well, it was something before that as well. House of Harkness, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the original.
Coven of Chaos, and now it's Darkhold Diaries. So yeah, there's a great little meme going around where there's just it's just on the Spider-Man all pointing at each other with the name in it. So that's quite funny. This Blade project seems a little bit cursed, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just seems a bit odd. I mean, we're going to get Ali. He's gonna be ancient by the time they actually get around to doing anything.
Yeah, he'll be collecting Social Security by the time it's time for him to probably make a third movie. I mean, if they actually even do a Blade trilogy, I mean, they may not actually do one. I mean, he's getting kind of older, and how long has he been cast as Blade? I mean, it's got years now.
Yeah,
the only
it was phase 4.
Yeah,
announced during.
Yeah, so it's and not only that, but the only thing we've got of him in the MCU is him just speaking.
Yep.
It's not him on screen, just him speaking. So it's
it is hard work, isn't it? Like any news, anything that comes out about that project, you just kind of go.
Yeah, I almost feel like I know that they had some issues with previous Blade franchise and stuff, making those and stuff. I almost feel like there's almost a curse on Blade movies at this point. It feels
Yeah.
On the Facebook chat here, I'm glad he's taking a stand though. I wouldn't want to make a subpar Blade project either if I were him. Like I said, I haven't heard anything about Blade. Well, I know Mahershala Ali's still in. I haven't heard anything about them scrapping the scripts or changing writers or anything like that again. I saw that rumor going around, but that was on more of the more untrustworthy pages out there, and none of the ones that I usually get a lot of stuff from. I have not seen the report yet.
I wonder whether it's just vampire stuff that makes it problematic. I wonder whether it's not the fact that it's Blade. It's just because it's to do with vampires. I don't know.
What's that?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to think of is it an old concept, vampires?
I mean, it
is an old concept.
It is, but then you see with Werewolf by Night and Werewolf's the old concept, and look how well that did in that special, and how they can bring the whole MonsterVerse side of things. And we also talked about on Thursday how what's his name is going to be basically the horror side of the MCU, like Gunn was of the cosmic side. So it seems like they have a path forward. We just don't know the plan yet. And remember, with the strikes going on, we just held the writer's strike, right? And now there's still negotiations for the actor strike. There's really nothing moving right now. That's why, with the writer's strike over, we finally started seeing concrete things come out, because no one's doing anything during the strike, right?
Yeah.
It's all just noise.
Yeah, I guess what bothers me about this Blade project is the fact that, he was announced as Blade 3 or 4 years ago. You just named all the movies and stuff coming out. For the most part, I think we went through 2024 or 2025, right? And, I didn't hear Blade in there. So, I mean, it could be 6-7 years of him being cast as this character before we actually see him on screen.
But everything I mentioned is done already, though. What If is done. Echo is done. X-97 is done. Captain America 4 was pretty much in post-prod before the strikes happened. Agatha, pretty much, again, post-prod. Deadpool 3...
Because, Blade could just be further out.
Yeah, Deadpool 3 was the only one that was still in the middle of principal photography, was Deadpool 3. The rest of these other projects were pretty much either in or done, or they're in post-prod.
I think I get Alex's point, though, because if you think when he was cast before all of those projects were even a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the Blade movie and Mahershala Ali were cast and were a thing before any of that was even mentioned. We didn't even know who Agatha was in the MCU when Mahershala Ali was cast as Blade, and now she's getting a show before we're getting a Blade movie. And I think I see your point, Alex. There's all of this stuff, and I'm not saying that this stuff is not as good as Blade, or we don't want this stuff or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. It's just worrying that this was a long time ago and nothing's happened.
Yeah,
but none of those projects though lost their primary director and had to go through rewrite. None of those projects that Listen did either. So yes, it's had some hurdles, some stumbling blocks, but I don't think we have cause for concern yet until we find out that Mahershala Ali's out as Blade. That's when we start having concern in my eyes.
It's just one of those things to me where it's we may not see this movie for 7 to 8 years, and there are people that literally make trilogies in 8 years. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be mean here, but I love Blade, but I'm just concerned because it's a timing thing. It's I don't really see that movie coming anytime soon. We've had him cast for a long time, and the fact that we are still working on the script and trying to work everything out, that means that this movie might be at least 3 years out. It might be even longer,
Who knows, though? We get a surprise project of in 2025 or early 2026. We're almost in 2024, right? Once this the actors strike is over, I bet you think they're going to start moving heavy and fast, or fast and furious, because we're back on. We need to get these projects out.
Yeah, I think they probably will be. I think you're right. I think they've had a big reshuffle over there in Marvel, Disney, and I think they've got some plans, I should imagine, going forward, because there was a lot of content that was chucked out, and I think they're trying to get some of these bits out of the way that they kind of promised to do, and then maybe try and find a new path to go down.
And who knows, maybe during Agatha we see some Blade stuff in there. Who knows, he can still pop up too in other projects, right?
Yeah, it's true. What's next?
The last bit of news I have is Fantastic Four. So Matt Shackman did talk about casting. We're in the middle of the SAG strike, and I keep my fingers crossed that they get a great deal really soon. Once it's resolved, there'll be a plan at that point, but I can't say too much. There'll be an announcement at some point. I know that the interest is very excited, or the internet is very excited to find out, and I'm excited to share it. I just can't do it yet. So people are taking this as the cast is done. I'm taking this as he knows who he wants. They probably have offers out there to see if those people will take the offers, but they can't do anything until the strike is over. Whether or not, if they accept, can negotiate more, or have to change directions and look for other people to fill those roles. But people are like, the cast is done. We've seen the strike over. I'm just well, he didn't say that. He just said he's excited. He probably has the people he wants, and he's trying to get that done, but it's not done yet.
Yeah. That would be interesting to see who gets cast as that. That's been another one of these things that's been a long time coming, hasn't it? I mean, they spoke about Fantastic Four a good sort of 3 years ago almost now, I feel like it was. And we've sort of not moved on that. We've not gone any further forward on that. Again, it's a little bit it's a little bit Blade-esque, isn't it? You know, we've kind of had this same sort of issue. We're going to do a Fantastic Four movie. Oh, great. And then nothing's really happened. I understand why nothing's happened, but nothing's happened. So we're all kind of itching for something, like give us anything almost, and we'll take it.
He also hinted that the Fantastic Four movie will be a different from anything we've seen in Marvel Universe before, both in terms of storytelling and filmmaking approach. We talked about Thursday, they're testing different cameras, that kind of stuff, the way they're going to film it. You know, this could be a jump back and forth type of movie too, as well. You know, sort of like not as probably more than we saw in Eternals of them going back and forth on different time eras. We can see that a lot. You know, when we could have like half the movie like in the original time frame, you know, a part of it in the present, then they could go back to the past again or something like that. So
yeah, I'm thinking maybe it'll be sort of bookended a little bit like Captain America. You know, now like present day, go back like what we've said before. You know, it's set in the 50s or 60s, and then bookended again with something in the present day again.
From the Facebook chat here, Fantastic Four is a tough one all the way around for a handful of reasons. Yeah, because it's already been done twice. You can't have a bad third one. You know, you can't have three strikes on that one. You know, there's elements from the first one that are really good. The second remake, you know, there's elements there, but you know, for the most part, they cut a lot of stuff in the first two movies they did. But you have to nail this. And like I said before, and I'll say it again, I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about this whole new reboot after Secret Wars, if Fantastic Four is the first movie out of the gate in that new universe.
What's really funny is technically this is the fourth time, because they did make a Fantastic Four movie in the 90s, but
that's right.
It didn't mark it. You can go on YouTube and watch it.
Yeah.
And that movie is like, it's not like bad. I like how they basically like explain in that movie that their powers are basically very similar to their personalities. I love that explanation for the characters. It's very true, I feel like.
Yeah.
That's something that ties back to the comics, isn't it, as well, that they talk about that in the comics, I think.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, like, it's just stuck in that 90s kind of style, you know, but like, yeah, I mean, like, I feel like they haven't done well with really any of them bringing those characters to the big screen, you know, except for Ben Grimm. I really like, what is his name? The guy that played
Michael Chiklis.
Michael Chiklis, yep. Yeah, but
I wonder, in the same way that I was talking about Blade being, you know, vampires being quite an old concept, you know, an old cinematic concept. I wonder whether the Fantastic Four, like this kind of, you know, superhero family, is a little bit of an old concept as well, and wonder if that's why it struggled. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I'm just throwing stuff out there, you know?
Yeah, I almost feel like with the Fantastic Four, it's like, you know, you don't really have to do anything too crazy with those characters, but I feel like people just don't really know like what direction they want to make those movies. I feel like that's kind of been the issue in the past. Like, you know, with Rise of the Silver Surfer, my biggest issue was Galactus. And, you know, in that movie, like, it just seemed like, what is this? This isn't like Fantastic Four fighting Galactus. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it didn't really feel like right. And the Silver Surfer, I liked the Silver Surfer in it. You know, the Silver Surfer was great, but like, I don't know, like, it just seems like it's hard to like make those characters, because like you said, it is kind of like an old school kind of style character, you know, in the modern world. So I feel like it is hard. It's hard to make a good Fantastic Four movie, but I feel like a lot of that falls down the casting. Like, I mean, castings will fix that problem, you know?
I think it's more of the story than the casting, because honestly, they could cast in four nobodies in those roles, and as long as the story is good, I would still watch it, and I still, you know, be excited about it. But you're right, they can't do Galactus the way they did Galactus in the second original Fantastic Four movie. They also can't do what they did in the one with Miles Teller, go that route as well, because, you know, there was some cool stuff they show with Reed's powers and that, the way he changed his face and that kind of stuff, and some of the things he did, but for the most part, it's like, that was kind of a weird story and a weird way to explain their powers and that kind of stuff. You know, so that's me. Like I said, I gotta take four nobodies, and they could, you know, do the story as long as it's well. I had to watch it, and they have so much they could build on. Like, you have so much in the comics you can use for the story. You have the cartoons, you know, you can do a great Fantastic Four movie with a bunch of unknown people.
And just Doom away from it, you know, like separate Doom for the next Fantastic Four.
Exactly. We don't need to see Doom at all yet. You could bring in humans. You know what? I'd be happy if they did Inhumans in the first Fantastic Four movie. They got their powers and then boom, they're up against Inhumans, right? We see Crystal and Johnny, all that kind of stuff. That'd be fine with me as long as they got Inhumans right in that one, and not what they did in that TV show where they made, like you always said, they made Black Bolt basically an infant. But they could do that. They could do Puppet Master. They could do Mole Man. They could do Blastar. They could do all kinds of things in Fantastic Four. They can even do it with Namor, even if they wanted to. You know, so they've introduced so much of the comic book history. They just need to get the story right and not try to rush things. Right? We don't need, like you said, Doom. We don't need Galactus. I think Galactus should be a huge threat to more than just Fantastic Four. This should be almost an Avengers level threat, or at least a cosmic level threat with Galactus, not just the Fantastic Four handling that.
I would love to see them separate Doom just for the sole fact of in every movie that I've seen with Doom in it in the Fantastic Four in live action, it feels like he's just an attachment of the Fantastic Four, and totally just give him his own movie or just give him a project or something.
No, give Doom his own movie.
Yeah.
Like Andy has said before, give Doom his own movie from his perspective, right? We always see things from the hero's perspective, but we never see it from the non-hero villain perspective. So that's where you have to do something like that, like Andy has said in the past, make it a Doom story.
100%.
From the chat here, huge fan base, so harder to cast. Already done a couple of times, so how do you stay true to the stories and tell a new story? I just let that out. You know, you could pick any one of the comic book stories, any one of the different villains. Don't do Doom. Don't do Galactus. Maybe tease Galactus at the end, or the Surfer shows up at the end, but you can't come in with, straight off the bat with Doom, Galactus, and Silver Surfer. There's so many people from the comic books that you can pull from their storyline. Like I said, Inhumans will be a good way to reboot both of them, right?
Yeah, it almost needs to be about them, doesn't it? It needs to introduce us to them, and not try and introduce us to too many different concepts. Like, Christ, can you imagine? Right, okay, we've, like you just said, those three people there, yeah. So they're going to introduce us to the Fantastic Four. Bear in mind, there's four of them, and we need to get to know all four of them. Then they're going to introduce you to Silver Surfer, and Doom, and Galactus. And you're like, well, wait a minute, like, can we just get to know the four of them first? Like, there's plenty of time for these other people down the line. Let's get to know them four and get behind them four, and then we can bring in one more or whatever.
I mean, go ahead.
I was gonna say, what if they pulled like a Captain America and they have like the Fantastic Four fight like a villain? Like, they're in the 60s, they get their powers in the 60s, they fight like Mole Man in the 60s, and then at the end of it, that reads like, I just unlocked multiversal travel. Do y'all want to give it a go? And they're like, yeah. If they end up in the future and like reads like, great, the machine's broken, I got to get it fixed, but then they end up just staying for whatever reason, and then they can do something like that.
Yeah.
From the chat here, I like the Namor angle. Also, too, I agree with the slower approach. Also, too, go on Disney Plus and watch the cartoon. I think it's like the first cartoon at the bat. They're on a talk show, and that talk show, they basically explain how they got their powers, and they're explaining themselves. You could have a whole movie about that. Them being like that first 2 episodes of the cartoon, sort of to that where they already have their powers, but they're explaining to us how they got their powers. Flashbacks and forth. This could be in their time. It could be in the future. I don't care. But just don't do the same things we've seen twice already.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, as we move on, one last thing I want to bring up before we close this one out. I rewatched The Dark Knight the other day, and I just got to say again, and it always strikes me every time I watch it, like, how good is Heath Ledger? I mean, how good is that movie? But how good is Heath Ledger as Joker in that movie? Like, he's such a cool performance. Watch that whole scene when he's just been arrested and he's getting interrogated. He's such a menacing person, like, just absolutely brilliant. And it's such a shame that we won't see that again. But just thought I'd bring that up.
One of the scenes that really cracks me up though is when Harvey's in the hospital. After the accident happens, half his face is burnt off, that kind of stuff, and the Joker comes in, and it's like the Joker has the mask over his nose and his mouth, doesn't know it's the Joker, but as soon as that mask comes, he starts freaking out. That scene always cracks me up, but you're right, that's a great movie, and that's probably one of the best trilogies out there for a movie. I'm just sad that they didn't do any kind of spin-off or another project after that with with Gordon Levitt as Nightwing or Robin, or even taking over the Batman mantle after that, because you set up so perfectly. It would have been great to see at least one more project with him after that.
For sure. Are we done there? Oh, hold on. Look, we've got one more comment there. Let's take that comment up there.
So here you go. Haven't been beat yet. He embodied the Joker so well. Give us an incredible take on the character. I agree. I agree also. We've been blessed in our lifetime with some pretty good Joker performances. He's pretty much the top one. We've got Nicholson doing it. We've got Ledger doing it. We got what's his name? Jared Leto doing it. So we've had some pretty good ones that we could see. Now and also
Brian, what's his name? Druig. That's not his name, but the same guy.
Yeah. I want to see him do more of it too. From what we saw of him, but then we also have the Joker movie with Phoenix.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
I wonder whether he's just one of those characters that, it kind of can't be played badly. Don't get me wrong, you can't just get anybody to do it, but like, he's such an interesting character. I don't know, such an interesting character. Like, if you get somebody that's decent, like, that's it. They'll crack it and they'll be great at it.
Barry Keoghan.
Such an interesting character. Yeah, Barry Keoghan. There you go.
Yeah, I think Nicholson's probably my favorite Joker, to be honest. Like, I just think he got the character spot on, and obviously I don't like Leto's Joker.
I see people don't like it, but I think in that universe and matching up with Harley Quinn, I think the way he portrayed the role fit that style and fit that purpose.
I was going to say the exact same thing, Jaren. I actually agree. In that Suicide Squad movie, I think that kind of worked there. I don't think it worked when they brought him out of that and put him into the Justice League bit. Like, it didn't seem, they had that extra cut scenes. Yeah, but I know what you mean. I don't particularly like it either, Alex, but I do see what you're mean.
I mean, they also did the Harley Quinn different in those movies than how Harley Quinn's always been portrayed. So they did it to her too, just like Jared Leto. So, so I mean, both of them, it's like, it's not the same.
Okay. Fair enough.
Last thing from the chat here, and happy anniversary to us. 2 years, yeah. Cheers to us, LOL. So thank you. Oh, we have a new person here.
Hi, new person. We was literally just about to go, but we'll have a new person in.
Is this our one friend Martin here?
Oh, it might be. It might well be. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Via YouTube. Hi, chaps. Martin here. Enjoying the show. Some nice suggestions about routes to the Fantastic Four. Namer ! There could also be a good source for a Doom movie. A 2005 Ed Brubaker written series, Books of Doom. So there you go. Check that out. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks, Martin. Yeah, that may well be Martin Flanagan. If you are Martin Flanagan, just give us a little nod and just say, hi, it is us.
Yep. I'm going to say friends of the show, Martin Flanagan. Yep.
Friends of the show. You've just called us right at the end of the show as well, Martin, if that is you. But look, it's been a great show. I've really enjoyed talking about Loki, actually. I know we've spoken about the news and stuff, but it's nice to get back to this kind of weekly commitment of a show and some new content. Looking forward to episode 2 next week. Yeah, that's a wrap.
It is him.
It is him. All right, Martin, it's nice to have you. We'll have to get you back on the show soon, mate. And we'll have to talk about all the things that have been happening in the world of comic book movies over the last sort of year or so. We'll definitely get you back on. Guys, it's been a pleasure. As always, Jaren, where can I get us?
You can get us the usual places. The ticker at the bottom shows us, but for those of you listening after, Comics Evolved on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Trovo, Kick, our Facebook page and our Facebook group, and then you'll see the shorter stuff now on Instagram and TikTok where it's Comic Evolved. So
awesome. Thanks, guys. Take it. Go on.
Have a good one. Nope, never mind.
See ya.
All right, bye.